A man is conditioned from a young age to believe that emotions are a sign of weakness. Society has ingrained in him that showing vulnerability makes him less of a man. From childhood, he is told, boys don't cry, man up, be strong. These messages don't just shape his behavior, they shape his entire emotional framework. As he grows, he learns that expressing feelings leads to ridicule, rejection, or loss of respect. He observes the way the world treats men who show too much emotion, and he decides, consciously or unconsciously, to build walls around his heart. So when a man is struggling, when life gets heavy, when stress is overwhelming, when something is truly bothering him, he doesn't always communicate it in a way that makes sense to the people around him. He won't sit down and pour his heart out the way many women do. Instead, he withdraws. He becomes distant. He loses himself in distractions. He might dive into work, bury himself in a hobby, or even shut down completely. And if you don't understand this about him, you might take it personally. You might think, he doesn't love me. He's pulling away. He's hiding something from me. But in reality, he's simply dealing with emotions in the only way he knows how, by suppressing them. Women, by nature, are generally more expressive with their emotions. When they feel something, they talk about it. When they're upset, they want to be comforted. When something is wrong, they look for connection. But a man, he does the opposite. He isolates. He processes alone. He avoids emotional discussions because they make him feel exposed. And exposure to him feels like a threat. This is why so many women find themselves frustrated in relationships when their man pulls away emotionally. They ask, why won't he just talk to me? Why is he ignoring me? What did I do wrong? But often it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with how he has been taught to handle emotions. Now, here's where things get complicated. A man will suppress his emotions, but that doesn't mean they disappear. They build up, they fester. And when a man doesn't have a healthy outlet for his emotions, they eventually come out in unhealthy ways. Sometimes it's anger. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's recklessness. Sometimes it's self-destruction. And sometimes the woman closest to him bears the brunt of it, not because she did anything wrong, but because he doesn't know how else to release what he's feeling. This is why so many relationships suffer from emotional disconnect. The man is dealing with stress, pressure, fear, and anxiety, but he doesn't verbalize it. Instead, he shuts down, and the woman, feeling rejected, reacts. She tries to pull him out of his silence. She asks more questions. She demands answers. She seeks reassurance. But the more she pushes, the more he retreats. Because to him, talking about emotions feels like an interrogation, not an invitation. And this is where the cycle begins. He withdraws, she panics. She pushes for closeness, he pulls away further. She starts to overthink, he starts to shut down even more. And before either of them realizes it, the relationship is caught in an emotional tug of war. All because neither truly understands what the other needs in that moment. She needs communication, he needs space. She wants connection, he wants to process alone. But because their emotional languages are so different, they keep missing each other, leading to frustration, resentment, and unnecessary conflict. So what can be done? First, it's important to recognize that his silence is not necessarily rejection. It's not that he doesn't care. It's that he doesn't know how to express what he's feeling without feeling weak. If a woman can understand this, she can approach his emotional distance with patience instead of panic. She can give him space without feeling abandoned. She can create an environment where he feels safe enough to eventually open up, instead of feeling pressure to talk before he's ready. Second, a woman must learn to listen without forcing. When a man is emotionally distant, the worst thing you can do is demand answers before he's willing to share them. Instead of saying, "Why won't you talk to me?" say, "I'm here when you're ready." Instead of pushing for conversation, offer quiet support. Sometimes just sitting with him in silence, letting him know he's not alone, is more powerful than any words could be. A man will open up when he feels safe, not when he feels pressured. Third, avoid making his emotional struggles about you. It's easy to take it personally when a man pulls away, but most of the time it's not about you. It's about his internal battle. He may be dealing with stress, doubt, or personal failures that have nothing to do with the relationship. But if you assume his silence means he doesn't care, you'll react in ways that push him even further away. Instead of assuming the worst, remind yourself that his emotions are his own, and your role is to support, not to solve. Lastly, understand that just because a man doesn't express emotions the way you do, doesn't mean he doesn't feel them just as deeply. He loves in his own way. He processes in his own way. He heals in his own way. And if you learn to navigate his emotional world with wisdom and patience, you'll build a level of trust that most people never reach. A man doesn't need someone who forces him to talk. He needs someone who makes him feel safe enough to do so on his own terms. A man's greatest fear is not failure. It's the perception of weakness. From the time he is a boy, he is conditioned to believe that his worth is tied to his strength, his capability, and his ability to handle any challenge that life throws at him. He is taught that real men don't break, real men don't struggle, and real men certainly don't expose their weaknesses to anyone, especially the people they love. This belief system is ingrained in him so deeply that even when he faces difficulties, whether in his career, finances, relationships, or personal growth, he will often choose to suffer in silence rather than risk looking weak. This is why, when a man is dealing with setbacks, he doesn't always communicate his fears openly. If he's struggling at work, if he feels like he's not measuring up to his own expectations, if he's doubting himself, he will rarely admit it. Instead, he will do one of two things. Either he will double down and try to prove himself by working harder, distancing himself and burying himself in distractions, or he will retreat into himself, becoming cold and distant as he fights his internal battle alone. In both cases, the woman in his life may feel like he is pulling away from her. She may think he doesn't care anymore. She may start to wonder if she did something wrong. But the truth is, he is not shutting her out because he doesn't love her. He is doing it because he doesn't know how to handle his emotions without feeling like a failure. When a man starts to feel weak, he will go to great lengths to protect his image. He will avoid conversations that make him feel exposed. He will resist showing signs of struggle. If he feels like he is losing control in any area of his life, he will instinctively try to compensate in another area. This is why some men become more distant, more aggressive, or even more controlling when they feel powerless in their professional or personal lives. They are not trying to push you away. They are trying to hold on to whatever sense of power they have left. And if a woman doesn't understand this, she may misinterpret his actions. She may see his silence as a sign that he no longer values her. She may see his short temper as indifference. She may think that his sudden obsession with work or his avoidance of emotional conversations means that he doesn't love her anymore. But in reality, he is just trying to hold himself together in the only way he knows how. A man's need to protect his image of strength is so deeply rooted that even when he is hurting, he will rarely seek help. He will rather suffer alone than admit that he needs support. He will rather pretend everything is fine than risk being seen as incapable. This is why so many men struggle in silence, carrying burdens that they don't know how to share, And this is also why many women find themselves confused when the man they love suddenly seems. It's not that he doesn't trust her. It's not that he doesn't care. It's that he doesn't want her to see him as anything less than the strong, capable man he believes he needs to be. For a woman who cares deeply, this can be incredibly frustrating. She may try to reassure him, but if he is not ready to receive that reassurance, he will resist it. She may try to ask what's wrong, but if he is still processing his emotions internally, he may dismiss her. And the more she pushes for answers, the more he will retreat. Because to him, every attempt to get him to open up feels like a reminder of his struggle, of the fact that he is not in control, that he is not at his best, that he is failing in some way. This is why patience is crucial. A woman who truly understands how a man operates emotionally will not try to force him to talk before he is ready. She will not make his silence about her. She will not interpret his distance as rejection. Instead, she will allow him the space to process what he is going through while making it clear that she is there when he is ready. She will not demand that he be vulnerable on her timeline. She will not pressure him to verbalize feelings that he himself may not fully understand yet. She will simply be present, without forcing, without pressuring, without making his struggle about her own insecurities. It is also important for a woman to understand that when a man feels weak, his confidence is fragile. He may not say it, but he needs reassurance, not through words alone, but through energy, through presence, through a belief in him that does not waver even when he doubts himself. If a woman reacts to his struggle with frustration, if she makes him feel like he is failing her too, it will only reinforce his sense of inadequacy. But if she remains steady, if she continues to believe in him even when he doesn't believe in himself, that quiet confidence will give him the strength to rise again. A man does not need to be told what to do when he feels weak. He needs to be reminded of who he is. He needs to feel like the woman in his life still sees him as capable, as strong, as worthy, even when he feels the opposite. He needs to know that she does not see him as broken. He needs to feel like he is still the man she admires, even when he is struggling. Because when a man feels like his woman still believes in him, it reignites his own belief in himself. And that belief, that quiet support, that steady presence will do more to bring him back to himself than any amount of questioning, pushing, or frustration ever could. A man's ego is one of the most fragile yet powerful forces driving his decisions, his actions, and his interactions. His ego is not just about pride. It is deeply connected to his identity, his sense of self-worth, and his perception of value in the eyes of the people around him. It dictates how he views himself as a provider, as a protector, as a leader, and as a man. When his ego is intact, he feels strong, capable, and in control. But when his ego is bruised, whether by failure, rejection, disrespect, or feelings of inadequacy, he often responds in ways that are difficult for others to understand, especially the women closest to him. A man's ego is built from the time he is a child. He is praised when he succeeds, encouraged when he wins, and rewarded when he proves himself. He learns that his value comes from his ability to conquer challenges, to solve problems, to be competent, and to be admired. He is rarely taught that it's okay to fail. He is rarely given the emotional tools to handle rejection without feeling like less of a man. So when his ego takes a hit, when he feels like he is not good enough, when he is not respected, when he loses a battle, he does not know how to process it in a healthy way. Instead, he reacts. Some men react to a bruised ego with anger. They lash out, become defensive, and push blame onto others to avoid admitting that they feel hurt. They would rather be seen as aggressive than weak. Other men retreat into silence, withdrawing emotionally because they do not want anyone to witness their vulnerability. They may shut down completely, avoiding difficult conversations, ignoring problems, or pretending nothing is wrong while carrying deep insecurities within them. Some men seek validation elsewhere, whether in work, in external achievements, or in some cases through the attention of other women, because they are looking for something to rebuild what they feel they have lost inside. For a woman in a relationship with a man, this aspect of his nature can be one of the most difficult things to understand. She may not realize when her words or actions are unintentionally bruising his ego. She may think she is simply offering advice, but he hears it as criticism. She may believe she is expressing her feelings, but he perceives it as an attack on his abilities. She may not even be aware that a simple comment about his career, his decision-making, or his role in the relationship has made him feel like less of a man. And because he does not openly express this, she is left confused by his sudden change in mood, his distance, or his defensive attitude. A man's ego is deeply tied to respect. He needs to feel respected in order to feel valued. Love alone is not enough. He must also feel that he is admired, appreciated, and looked up to. If a woman loves him but constantly criticizes, questions, or belittles him, even unintentionally, he will feel unfulfilled in the relationship. He will start to feel like he is failing in his role. He may not say it outright, but it will manifest in his behavior. He will become less engaged, less affectionate, and less motivated to give his best. He will either withdraw completely or seek an environment where he feels like his presence is valued. When a man feels like his ego is being damaged, his first instinct is to protect it. This is why he may argue even when he knows he is wrong. This is why he may refuse to ask for help even when he is struggling. This is why he may act like he doesn't care even when he cares deeply. It is easier for him to protect his pride than to admit vulnerability. And if a woman does not understand this, she may keep pushing, demanding answers, and trying to get him to express emotions in a way that he is not ready to. The more she pushes, the more he resists. The more she criticizes, the more he shuts down. A man needs a woman who understands the delicate balance between honesty and respect. He does not need to be lied to, but he does need to feel like he is still respected, even when he is being corrected. If she wants to give him advice, it must be done in a way that does not make him feel small. If she wants him to change something, it must be communicated in a way that makes him feel empowered rather than controlled. Is she? A man's ability to emotionally connect is often shaped by his upbringing, societal expectations, and personal experiences. Many men grow up in environments where emotions are seen as a weakness rather than a natural part of being human. They are taught to be strong, to be tough, to suppress anything that might make them appear vulnerable. As a result, when they enter relationships, they struggle with emotional intimacy, not because they don't care, but because they have never been given the tools to express their emotions in a way that feels safe. For a man, emotional expression is often a learned skill rather than an instinctive behavior. While women are encouraged from an early age to talk about their feelings, to seek comfort, and to express vulnerability, men are conditioned to do the opposite. They are told to man up when they feel hurt, to be strong when they feel overwhelmed, and to figure it out on their own rather than ask for support. Over time, this conditioning creates an internal barrier that makes it difficult for them to navigate deep emotional conversations, even with the people they love most. This is why many women find themselves frustrated when they try to get a man to open up. She may ask him what's wrong, but he will say nothing. She may try to engage him in deeper conversations about his feelings, but he will keep his responses short or deflect the topic. It's not that he doesn't have emotions. It's that he has spent years being told that showing them is a sign of weakness. And if he has ever been judged, criticized, or rejected for his vulnerability in the past, he has likely reinforced his belief that keeping his emotions to himself is the safest option. When a man does not know how to process his emotions, he finds other ways to cope. Some men become distant and withdrawn when they are struggling. They may bury themselves in work, isolate themselves, or distract themselves with hobbies or other activities. Others may act out in frustration, channeling their internal struggles into short tempers, irritability, or shutting people out. And then there are those who try to escape their emotions entirely through excessive drinking, reckless behavior, or even engaging in relationships that provide temporary distraction rather than real emotional depth. For a woman who values emotional connection, this behavior can be confusing and painful. She may feel like he does not trust her enough to share his struggles. She may take his emotional unavailability as a sign that he doesn't care. She may feel like she is constantly reaching for him, but never truly getting through. And if she does not understand the internal battle he is facing, she may start to believe that his lack of emotional expression is a reflection of how he feels about her, when in reality, it is a reflection of how he has been conditioned to handle his own emotions. The challenge in a relationship is that women often communicate emotions verbally while men communicate them through actions. A woman may express love through words, affection, and deep conversations, while a man may express love through acts of service, loyalty, and provision. Because of this difference, a woman may feel like he is emotionally distant when in fact he may be showing his love in ways that do not align with her expectations. He may not say, "I love you" often, but he may work tirelessly to provide stability. He may not express his worries openly, but he may show his commitment through his presence and consistency. If a woman wants a man to open up emotionally, she must create an environment where he feels safe to do so. She cannot force him into deep emotional conversations before he is ready. She cannot demand vulnerability in a way that makes him feel pressured or judged. Instead, she must lead with patience, understanding, and reassurance. She must show him through her actions that his emotions will not be used against him, that his struggles do not make him less of a man, and that he is valued for who he is, not just for what he provides. One of the most important things a woman can do is to recognize and appreciate the small ways he does express emotion. If he shares even a little bit about his feelings, it should be acknowledged and encouraged rather than dismissed or criticized. If he shows love through actions rather than words, those actions should be noticed and appreciated. When he does open up, even in small ways, he should feel that his vulnerability is met with support rather than judgment. It is also important to understand that emotional expression looks different for every man. Some men may take longer to open up than others. Some may need time to process their emotions before they can talk about them. Some may never be as verbally expressive as their partner would like, but they will show their emotions through their actions. Rather than trying to change a man into someone who expresses emotions in the same way she does, a woman must learn to recognize and appreciate the ways in which he does show his feelings. A man who feels emotionally safe with a woman will gradually become more open over time. He will start to share more of his thoughts, his worries, and his feelings when he realizes that his emotions will not be met with ridicule, frustration, or pressure. He will begin to trust that he does not have to have all the answers, that he does not have to carry his burdens alone, and that his value is not diminished by his moments of vulnerability. But this process takes time. It requires patience, understanding, and a willingness to accept him as he is, rather than trying to mold him into an idealized version of emotional openness. Emotional connection is not built overnight, and it is not something that can be forced. It is cultivated through trust, through consistency, and through the reassurance that he is safe to be himself, flaws, emotions, and all. A man's sense of purpose is one of the strongest forces driving his life. It dictates his decisions, his ambitions, and the way he interacts with the world around him. From a young age, he is conditioned to believe that his value is tied to his ability to achieve, to build, to conquer challenges, and to prove himself. He measures his worth by his success, by what he creates, by the impact he makes. If he feels he is progressing, growing, and moving towards something meaningful, he feels strong and confident. But if he feels directionless, stagnant, or unfulfilled, it begins to weigh on him in ways that he may not even fully understand. Many men struggle internally when they feel lost in life, but few will openly admit it. Society has taught them to be providers, to be strong, to be the ones who have the answers. So when a man does not know where he is going or what his purpose is, he often keeps that struggle to himself. He may feel ashamed, frustrated, or even resentful toward himself for not being where he thinks he should be. And because he does not always know how to express this feeling of being lost, it manifests in different ways. Irritability, withdrawal, lack of motivation, or a sense of emptiness that he cannot quite put into words. A woman who is in a relationship with a man who feels lost in life may notice the changes in him before he even fully acknowledges them himself. He may become less engaged, less passionate, or less motivated in areas of his life where he once thrived. He may avoid conversations about the future or become defensive when asked about his plans. He may even start to pull away emotionally, not because he does not care, but because he does not feel like he is bringing enough to the table. When a man feels like he has no direction, he often feels like he is failing, not just in his personal goals, but in his role as a partner, as a leader, as a man. This is why so many men attach their sense of worth to their careers, their financial status, or their ability to provide. It is not just about money, it is about what that success represents to them. It represents their ability to stand strong, to be capable, to be a man of value. And when they feel like they are failing in these areas, they internalize that failure in a way that deeply affects their confidence and self-esteem. A man who does not feel like he is succeeding in his purpose often struggles to fully engage in other areas of his life, including his relationships. He may feel undeserving of love, unworthy of respect, or unable to fully show up as the man he wants to be. When a man is in this state, he may start looking for ways to escape the pressure he feels. Some men dive into distractions, whether it's excessive work, unhealthy habits, or meaningless pursuits, just to avoid facing the uncomfortable truth that they feel lost. Others become emotionally distant, avoiding deep conversations because they do not want to admit they don't have the answers. Some lash out in frustration, projecting their internal struggles onto the people around them. And some completely shut down, withdrawing into themselves because they do not know how to express what they are going through. A woman who does not understand this may misinterpret his behavior as a lack of love, a lack of interest, or even a sign that he is pulling away for reasons unrelated to his own struggles. She may take his silence personally, believing that he no longer values the relationship. She may feel rejected when he does not open up about his emotions. She may start questioning herself, wondering if she is the reason for his sudden change in energy. But in reality, his struggle is not about her, it is about him. It is about the internal battle he is fighting to regain his sense of purpose, his drive, his motivation. A man in this state does not need to be reminded of his failures. He does not need criticism, pressure, or constant questioning about why he is not doing enough. He already feels the weight of his own expectations pressing down on him. What he needs is space to rediscover himself, encouragement without force, and support without judgment. He needs to feel that he is still respected, even in his moments of uncertainty. He needs to be reminded of his strengths, not just his shortcomings. A woman who understands this will know how to support him without making him feel weak. She will know that sometimes the best thing she can do is simply remind him of the man he truly is, even when he has forgotten it himself. She will not try to fix him, because it is not her job to fix him, but she will stand beside him as he finds his own way. She will know that he does not always need words, but rather a presence that reassures him that he is still valued. A man's sense of purpose is what fuels his spirit. When he has it, he is unstoppable. When he loses it, he feels like he is merely existing rather than living. And while no one else can define his purpose for him, the understanding and support of those closest to him can be a powerful force in helping him find his way back to himself. When a man feels unappreciated, it slowly erodes his motivation, his confidence, and his sense of fulfillment. At his core, a man desires to be valued for what he does, for what he provides, and for the effort he puts into the things and people he cares about. He may not always voice this need, but it is deeply ingrained in him. If he feels that his efforts go unnoticed or are taken for granted, it creates a silent frustration that builds over time, leading to emotional distance, resentment, and in some cases, a complete withdrawal from the relationship or situation. A man thrives when he knows that his contributions matter, whether it is providing financial stability, offering emotional support, solving problems, or simply being present and reliable. He wants to know that his role is valued. He wants to feel that what he brings to the table is recognized, not just expected. The moment he begins to feel like his efforts are being overlooked or dismissed, something shifts inside him. He may not immediately express his frustration, but it will show in his energy, in his level of engagement, and in his willingness to continue putting in effort. Many women underestimate how much appreciation fuels a man's drive. They assume that because he is responsible, because he shows up, because he handles things, that he does not need acknowledgement. But the truth is, even the strongest man craves recognition for what he does. He may not ask for it, he may not verbalize it, but he feels it deeply when it is missing. He notices when his sacrifices go unnoticed. He senses when his efforts are taken for granted. And over time, this lack of appreciation can lead him to disengage. Not because he no longer cares, but because he no longer feels that his presence makes a difference. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that just because a man is strong, he does not need encouragement. Just because he is capable does not mean he does not need reassurance. A man who feels appreciated will go above and beyond. He will work harder, love deeper, and invest more into the people and things that acknowledge his value. But a man who feels unappreciated will slowly stop trying. He will begin to do the bare minimum. he will withdraw into himself. He will put his energy elsewhere, into places where he feels his efforts are valued. This is why so many men lose passion in their relationships, not because they have stopped caring, but because they have stopped feeling appreciated. A woman may assume that because he is there, because he continues to provide, because he has not left, that everything is fine. But deep inside, he may be feeling invisible. He may be carrying silent burdens, questioning whether his efforts even make a difference. And when a man starts to feel that his contributions do not matter, it is only a matter of time before he begins to detach emotionally. A woman who understands this will never underestimate the power of appreciation. She will not wait until he is distant to acknowledge him. She will not assume that he already knows how much he is valued. She will make it a point to let him know in both words and actions that what he does is seen, that his presence is meaningful, that his sacrifices are not unnoticed. She will understand that just as she craves love and emotional connection, he craves respect and acknowledgement. Appreciation does not have to be grand or complicated. It can be as simple as saying, "I see how hard you work, and I appreciate it." It can be acknowledging his efforts without waiting for him to point them out. It can be recognizing the things he does consistently, not just the big gestures. Many men continue to show up every day without complaint, without seeking recognition, but deep down, they long to know that what they do is making a difference. The irony is that when a man stops feeling appreciated, he will rarely voice it outright. Instead, he will start to disengage. He will stop putting in the extra effort. He will become less enthusiastic. He may even start looking for validation elsewhere, not necessarily in another person, but in work, in hobbies, in anything that makes him feel valued. And this is why so many relationships and connections slowly deteriorate, not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of acknowledgement. Because people deny. A woman who values her relationship will never take a man's efforts for granted. She will understand that appreciation is not just about saying thank you occasionally, but about consistently recognizing his contributions. She will realize that just as she needs emotional security, he needs to feel that what he does is meaningful. And when a man feels truly appreciated, he will give even more, not because he has to, but because he genuinely wants to.